In the farthest reaches of the galaxy, where starlight touched only empty darkness, the galactic empire of Therion reigned for thousands of years. Its ships filled the sky, its armies ruled countless worlds, and its leaders believed no power could challenge their might. Until one day, their long-range scanners detected something unusual beyond the Orion Rift, an unknown fleet moving with perfect silence. At first, the Imperial Command thought it was a system glitch. Their instruments were old and space distortions were common near the rift. But as the hours passed, the strange signals grew clearer. Hundreds, then thousands of ships seemed all perfectly aligned, moving like a single mind. No Empire fleet had ever been that disciplined. The name of the newcomers appeared on the sensors only once before the signal cut off. Terran United Fleet. No one in the Empire had ever heard of Terrans. Admiral Xylan of the Therion Empire stood on the bridge of his battlecruiser, Dominion spear, watching the screen in disbelief. Terrans? He muttered, his voice sharp.
What species is that?
The archives have no record of them. A nervous officer replied. Sir, their ships are made of alloys we've never seen before. No energy leaks. No communications. Just silence. Xylan frowned. Empires fell not to strength, but to the unknown. Prepare a scout wing. We'll see what these Terrans are made of. Meanwhile, on the flagship TSS Horizon, Commander Elena Ward looked out the viewport, her calm eyes reflecting the distant light of alien suns. Humanity had changed. 2 centuries ago, Earth was divided, broken by politics and greed. But the great disasters united them. The rising seas, the dying crops, the wars that almost ended everything. Humanity rose again, together this time, under the banner of the Terran Union. And now, after decades of peace, they finally looked outward. Not to conquer, but to survive among the stars. Report, Elena said softly. Fleet formation stable, her first officer replied. All systems green. No hostile signals yet, Elena nodded. Good, keep the stealth screens active. Let's see what kind of galaxy we've come to. The Terran fleet was unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Ships built not for beauty, but for efficiency. Each vessel was self-sustaining, covered in adaptive armor and guided by advanced AIs. Yet, at the heart of it all, humans commanded them. Humans, a fragile, emotional, curious, but also the most adaptable species in known space. Back in the Empire, rumors spread like wildfire. The Senate debated endlessly. Some senators claimed it was a trick, an illusion made by pirates. Others whispered that it was the return of the ancient builders, the forgotten species who once shaped the galaxy. But the Imperial military had no patience for talk. They mobilized their border fleets. 3 weeks later, at the edge of the Narlis sector, the first contact happened. A Therion patrol fleet of 12 destroyers intercepted a group of unknown ships, small gray vessels with no visible markings. The Imperial commander sent the standard greeting signal, a mix of light codes and sound frequencies used across the galaxy. No reply. He sent it again. Still nothing. Frustrated, he ordered his ships to approach. As the Therion fleet drew closer, the unknown ships moved slightly. A formation shift, precise and calm. Then a single message blinked onto their screens. It was written in perfect galactic standard. Do not engage. We come in peace. The Imperial commander sneered. Peace? They hide behind stealth and demand peace? He ordered a warning shot, a beam across the enemy's bow. But before the energy pulse even reached its target, it vanished, absorbed by an invisible barrier. The Terran ship didn't move, didn't fire, just stood there silent. Then another message appeared. This is your first and final warning. Stand down. The Therion commander laughed. How dare they? He never finished the sentence. The moment he prepared to fire again, his ship's systems froze. The engines shut down. Weapons went offline. Every screen filled with one symbol, a white circle surrounded by 12 stars, the symbol of Earth. Within seconds, all 12 Imperial destroyers were disabled. No explosions, no damage, just total shutdown. And when the systems finally rebooted, the Terran ships were gone. The incident spread fear across the Empire. The Therion High Council held emergency meetings. How could unknown ships disable Imperial warships without a fight? What kind of technology did these Terrans possess? Admiral Xylan studied every report, every sensor log, every signal trace. There was only one conclusion he could draw. They are more advanced than we are. Far more. But Xylan wasn't a man who gave up easily. He sent a full armada, 300 ships, into the Narlis sector. If the Terrans wanted to make an impression, he would show them what the Empire truly was. When the Imperial Armada arrived, the stars themselves seemed to vanish, covered by the sheer number of ships. Fighters formed clouds around battlecruisers. Energy weapons charged, ready to strike, and then they saw them. Dozens of Terran ships emerged from the void, massive and silent. No shields visible, no energy spikes, just calm, perfect motion. A cold silence filled the communication channels. Then the Terran spoke. "This is Commander Elena Ward of the Terran United Fleet. We wish no conflict. But if you fire upon us, you will not win." Her voice was calm, steady, not proud, not fearful. Admiral Xylan replied, "You stand before the might of the Galactic Empire. Surrender your ships and submit to inspection." A pause. Then a soft laugh came from the Terran channel. Not mocking, it just human. Xylan's crew looked at each other uneasily. Did she just laugh? One asked. Before Xylan could respond, the space around them shimmered. One by one, more Terran ships uncloaked, hundreds, then thousands Icardi surrounding the entire Imperial Armada. Each ship bore the same symbol, a white circle and 12 stars. Every Imperial sensor screamed warnings. Their tactical maps turned red. The Terrans didn't even lock weapons. They simply stood there encircling the Empire's best fleet like calm giants. And through the silence, Commander Ward's voice returned. "We asked for peace. You brought war. Still, we will not fire first." For the first time in centuries, the mighty Therian Empire hesitated. No one dared give the order to attack. Then something strange happened. Across the Empire's fleet channels, data packets began to flow. It wasn't a virus, it was an invitation. Inside the encrypted message was a single file, a map of the Milky Way, and beyond. At the bottom was a line in plain text. "Humanity seeks friendship, not conquest. But we will defend it if needed." The Empire's computers couldn't block the transmission. It spread across their systems like a wave of light. A peaceful message carried with unstoppable strength. Admiral Xylan stood still. He could feel every eye on him, his officers waiting for orders. His hands trembled not from fear but from realization. Whoever these Terrans were, they didn't just have power, they had control and mercy. "Stand down," he said finally. The order echoed through the ships and the weapons powered off. On the Terran bridge, Commander Ward allowed herself a small smile. "Humans just smile," she whispered. "That's enough." In that moment, history changed. The Galactic Empire, undefeated for 10,000 years, had been stopped not by war, but by the quiet strength of a species that simply smiled. They didn't threaten. They didn't boast. They didn't conquer. They just stood together, calm and certain. And as the Terran fleet turned back toward the stars, leaving behind a trembling empire, one truth spread across every world. The humans had arrived. After the meeting in the Narlis sector, the galaxy changed in ways no one could have expected. The Terran United Fleet had appeared from the dark void, surrounded the Empire's armada, and left without firing a single shot. No one in the Therian Empire could understand how or why it had happened. For thousands of years, the Empire had ruled through fear. Now it was the Empire itself that trembled. In the grand capital city of GalacticPrime, the Senate was in chaos. Senators shouted across the marble halls, their voices echoing under the golden dome. Some demanded war, others begged for peace. "They humiliated us," cried Senator Rahl. "They surrounded our fleet and left as if we were children. We must strike first before they strike us." But Senator Vora, older and wiser, shook her head. "Strike first? Against what? Ships we cannot track, weapons we cannot see, and minds we cannot read." Admiral Xylan did the right thing by standing down. Her words drew murmurs from the assembly. The Empire had never stood down before. Admiral Xylan sat quietly in the corner, watching the senators argue. His mind wasn't on politics. It was on the mysterious humans. He remembered the calm voice of Commander Elena Ward, the way her fleet had moved like a single thought, the way they had smiled when he had threatened them. It wasn't arrogance, it was confidence, a quiet belief that they didn't need to prove anything. He leaned back in his chair, thinking aloud. They don't fear us because they don't want what we have. They came for something else. Across the galaxy, Word of the Terrans spread faster than light. On the desert world of Rexel, traders whispered tales of the silent fleet. They said the human ships could disappear into thin air. On the icy colonies of Tarnus, miners told stories of how the Terrans' technology could heal damaged machinery with living metal. And in the criminal underworld, smugglers passed rumors that the humans were offering safe refuge to those tired of the Empire's rule. Whether true or false, one thing became certain: the legend of humanity had begun. Meanwhile, deep within the Terran flagship Horizon, Commander Ward held a quiet meeting with her senior officers. "We've made contact," she said, her voice steady. "The Empire knows we exist now. The question is, what comes next?" Her science officer, Dr. Aaron Das, adjusted his glasses. "We've analyzed their communication networks. They're in a state of panic. Some worlds are even considering rebellion, thinking we might support them." Ward frowned. "We didn't come here to cause rebellion. Our goal is exploration and peaceful contact." "Yes," Das said, "but they see our strength. To them, power means authority. They assume we want to rule because that's what they would do." Ward sighed. "Then we'll have to show them another way." A few light years away, on the edge of Empire-controlled space, a small research station watched the Terran ships pass through deep space. The scientists on board were fascinated. Dr. Kareth, a young Therian physicist, stared at the holographic display in wonder. "They travel faster than our sensors can track," she said. "Their engines use some kind of gravity fold, but the energy readings are soft, gentle, as if the ships glide with space rather than fighting it." Her assistant, a nervous young alien named Laura, whispered, "Are they dangerous?" Kareth smiled faintly. "Everything that can move that quietly is dangerous, Laura, but I think they're more curious than cruel." She looked at the data again, then added, "You know what's strange? Their signal transmissions are open. Anyone who listens can hear them. It's like they want to be understood." As the Terran fleet continued its journey, they made contact with smaller civilizations, independent planets not yet under Imperial rule. On the lush world of Yaren, Terran envoys landed in silver ships and met with the planet's leaders. The Yarini people had suffered under Imperial taxes for generations. Now they watched the humans with wide eyes. One young Yaren diplomat, a woman with blue-green skin, asked cautiously, "Do you come to rule us too?" Commander Ward smiled gently. "No, we come to trade, to learn, and to share. You decide your future, not us." The Yarini elders exchanged surprised glances. No one had ever said such words to them before. The Empire always demanded, never asked. News of this meeting reached the Empire quickly. When Emperor Thalor heard of it, his calm composure shattered. "Trade with an unknown species. Without Imperial permission?" he shouted. "That is treason." He turned to Admiral Xylan. "You will not sit idle while our subjects bow to outsiders. Prepare the Second Armada. I want those Terran ships followed, everywhere they go." Xylan bowed, but inside he hesitated. He knew following the Terrans was possible. Confronting them, however, was suicide. Still, orders were orders. As the Second Armada moved out, the Terrans already knew. Their sensors picked up the fleet before the Empire even left orbit. On the Horizon's bridge, Elena Ward stood beside her navigation officer. "They're sending another fleet," she said softly. "Yes, ma'am. 200 ships. Standard Imperial configuration. Hold position. Activate observation drones. I want to see what they do." Hours later, in the black emptiness between stars, the Second Armada caught sight of the Terran vessels. The Imperial ships opened their formation, spreading wide, trying to trap the humans. But the Terrans didn't run. They didn't even raise shields. Instead, hundreds of small drones separated from the Terran ships, silver lights drifting like stars across space. They projected calm messages in dozens of languages. "We are explorers. We mean no harm. Please do not attack." The Imperial Fleet Commander, a proud officer named Relkor, ignored the message. "Fire warning shots," he ordered. His ships obeyed, bright energy beams flashing across the dark. Then something incredible happened. The beams never reached their target. Each pulse of energy simply faded away, swallowed by the dark. The Terran ships glowed faintly, unharmed. A calm voice spoke through every Imperial communication channel. "Your weapons are strong, but your anger makes them weaker. Stand down. The crew stared in disbelief. Relkor clenched his fist. Who do they think they are, lecturing us like children? His first officer hesitated. Sir, their ships outnumber us now. Relkor turned, and his heart froze. The void around them shimmered again, revealing hundreds more Terran ships, all silent and steady, surrounding them completely, and still the humans didn't attack. At that same moment, deep inside the Imperial Palace, Emperor Thalor watched the live feed. His golden eyes darkened with fear. They are everywhere, he whispered. How many of them are there? No one could answer. While the Empire trembled, small races across the galaxy began to dream. The miners of Tarnus, the traders of Rexel, the scholars of Yaren, all started speaking the same hopeful words. If the humans can stand against the Empire without fighting, maybe we can too. Whispers became songs. Songs became movements. And slowly, a quiet resistance began to grow, not of war, but of unity. The Empire had ruled with fear, but fear was starting to fade. Back on the horizon, Commander Ward listened to a report from Dr. Das. Ma'am, he said, we're picking up encrypted transmissions from dozens of planets. They're organizing and building alliances. The Therian Empire is losing control. Ward looked thoughtful. We didn't mean to cause that. But maybe it's what the galaxy needs, Das smiled faintly. You know, Commander, it's strange. For all their power, these empires never learned that peace can be stronger than war. Ward gazed out the window, watching the stars drift by. Let's hope they learn now. In the darkness beyond, unseen by all, the Terran fleet kept moving. Their engines hummed softly, their ships shining like small suns in the void. They didn't roar. They didn't threaten. They just smiled, calm, patient, unstoppable. And across the galaxy, from the richest worlds to the poorest outposts, the same whisper spread. The humans smile, and the Empire shakes. Elena nodded. Do it. If they destroy themselves, the whole sector dies with them. At that moment, deep within the Sunbreaker's control room, Dr. Marn screamed as warning lights flashed. Containment breach! The star is destabilizing. The Imperial Overseer yelled, Fire now! Before it collapses. But that will do it. Marn hit the control, tears in his eyes. The weapon fired, a beam of pure light that stretched across space. But halfway through, the beam curved, bent away by an invisible force. Outside the system, the Terran fleet had arrived. Their ships formed a massive circle, channeling their energy shields together. The light from the cannon dispersed harmlessly across their barrier, glowing like dawn. Then the Terran fleet did something unexpected. Instead of attacking, they redirected the excess energy back into the collapsing star, stabilizing it. The star dimmed, then steadied. The explosion never came. Inside the Imperial Palace, silence filled the air. The Emperor watched the feed with wide eyes. They saved the star? He whispered. Admiral Xylan nodded slowly. Yes, Your Majesty. They saved your fleet and your people. Thalor's pride cracked. Why? They could have destroyed us. Xylan looked at him. Because they are not like us. Across the galaxy, the story spread. The Terrans had stopped the Sunbreaker from destroying a star, and they had done it without taking a single life. On Yaren, people cheered. On Tarnus, miners sang. Even on worlds loyal to the Empire, soldiers looked up at the stars with quiet respect. The humans didn't just have powerful ships. They had something greater. Compassion. Later that night, aboard the Horizon, Commander Ward stood before her crew. We didn't fight today, she said softly. We prevented war. Remember that. The greatest victory is the one that saves lives. Her officers nodded. Some smiled. Dr. Das added quietly, The Empire will have to see us differently now. Ward looked out the window at the calm stars beyond. Maybe, but fear is a deep wound. It takes time to heal. Far away in his throne room, Emperor Thalor sat alone. He thought of the humans and of how they smiled even when surrounded, how they showed mercy when they held all the power. He whispered to himself, they could rule the galaxy if they wished. Yet they choose peace. Perhaps that is what makes them truly dangerous. The Empire didn't fall that day, but something inside it changed. For the first time, its ruler began to question what strength really meant. And as the Terran fleet sailed quietly through the stars, their engines glowing like fireflies in the void, every world they passed watched them with wonder. They didn't conquer. They didn't demand. They simply smiled. and the galaxy listened. The story of the Sunbreaker incident spread like wildfire across the galaxy. The Terran fleet had done the impossible. They stopped a star from exploding and saved billions of lives, including those who had called them enemies. For centuries, the Therian Empire had taught its people that mercy was weakness and peace was foolishness. But now, everywhere across the stars, people were whispering a new belief. Maybe the humans are right. Maybe kindness is strength. On the planet Vareth Prime, the shining capital of the Empire, Emperor Thaler sat alone in his private chamber. The golden banners of his ancestors hung behind him, their faces carved in stone, their eyes cold and proud. He looked at their statues with bitterness. "You ruled through fear," he muttered, "and now fear has turned against me." A soft knock came from the door. It was Admiral Xylan, his most trusted commander. "Enter," said the Emperor. Xylan bowed respectfully. "Your Majesty, the latest reports have arrived. 5 outer colonies have stopped sending tribute. 2 have declared independence." And Thaler cut him off. "And let me guess, they now fly the human flag?" Xylan hesitated. "They call themselves the Coalition of Free Worlds, with the humans as their advisors." "Not rulers, advisors," the Emperor frowned. "Advisors? You expect me to believe that? No one gains such influence without wanting the throne." Xylan shook his head slowly. "Perhaps they do not want to rule, Your Majesty. Perhaps they only wish to guide." The Emperor rose from his throne, his long robes flowing behind him. "Guide, ha! No one guides an empire, Admiral. They will learn soon enough that power always demands obedience." But even as he spoke, Thaler's voice lacked conviction. Deep down, he knew the galaxy was changing, and not in his favor. Far across space, on the Terran flagship Horizon, Commander Elena Ward studied the galactic map displayed before her. New lights had appeared across the holographic stars, signals from newly independent worlds forming small alliances. Dr. Arun Das stood beside her, his usual calm face showing a hint of a smile. "They're calling it the Coalition," he said. "Dozens of planets are joining. They say they want to follow the Terran way, peace through unity." Elena crossed her arms. "We didn't ask for followers, Arun," he nodded. "We didn't, but inspiration doesn't ask for permission. They saw how we stood against the Empire without hatred, and it gave them courage." Elena sighed softly. "Then we must be careful. Hope is powerful, but if it turns into worship, it can become dangerous." In the years of the Empire's dominance, no one had dared to speak against it. Now in the market squares of distant worlds, people openly discussed rebellion. On the dusty world of Rexal, a young merchant named Kira spoke to her customers as she sold goods from her stall. "Did you hear about the humans?" she said with excitement. "They don't take tribute. They trade fairly, one item for another. No taxes, no soldiers." An old miner replied, "The Empire will crush them soon enough." But Kira smiled. "Maybe. Or maybe they'll crush the fear that's kept us silent." Nearby, Imperial guards watched the crowd but said nothing. They had heard the same stories. Even they began to wonder what it would be like to serve under leaders who smiled instead of shouted. In the secret council chambers of the Coalition of Free Worlds, representatives from 10 liberated planets gathered. Holographic displays showed their faces: Yarini elders, Tarnus miners, Rexall merchants, and even Therian defectors. Commander Ward appeared on the central display, her image calm and steady. "We are not your rulers," she began. "The Terran Union will not build an empire. You will govern yourselves. But we will help you defend your freedom." One of the Yaran elders asked, "And if the Therian Empire attacks us again?" Elena answered, "Then humanity will stand beside you, not above you." The room filled with quiet murmurs of agreement. The galaxy had never known leaders who offered help without asking for power. Back in the Imperial Palace, the pressure on Emperor Thaler grew daily. The Senate argued openly now. Governors refused orders. Even within the military, officers whispered doubts. Admiral Xylan brought grim news. "Your Majesty, our fleets are losing discipline." Many ships refused to fire on coalition worlds. Some captains even surrendered without battle. Thaler clenched his fists. "Cowards. They have forgotten who we are." "Or perhaps," Xylan said carefully, "they have remembered what we should have been." Thaler's eyes blazed. "Enough. You speak as if you admire them, these humans." "I admire courage," Xylan said simply. "And they have it." The Emperor turned away, silent for a long time. Finally, he said, "Prepare my ship. I will see this coalition myself." The journey to coalition space was long, but Thaler insisted on traveling aboard his personal cruiser, Imperious Dawn. As his ship entered neutral space, he expected to see human warships waiting to intimidate him. Instead, he saw peaceful lights, trade stations, civilian ships, and transports moving freely among coalition worlds. He turned to Xylan. "Where are their guards?" "Their fleets?" Xylan smiled faintly. "Every ship you see belongs to them. Traders, explorers, scientists. The humans trust their allies enough not to need armies on every border." Thaler shook his head. Naive. So naive. But when they landed on Yaren, his doubts grew. The city was alive with color and laughter. Children played in the streets, merchants traded goods from every world, and Terran officers walked among them like friends, not conquerors. Commander Ward met the Emperor at the landing platform. She bowed politely. "Welcome to Yaren, Emperor Thaler. We are honored." Thaler studied her face. "You honor me after I tried to destroy your fleet?" Elena smiled. "We remember actions, not anger. You chose not to attack when you could have. That means there's still reason for peace." Her calmness unsettled him more than any weapon could have. They walked together through the city. Everywhere Thaler looked, people of different species worked side by side. No soldiers forced them. No banners demanded loyalty. Yet order remained. At one point, Thaler stopped and turned to Elena. "How do you control them?" "We don't," she replied. "We guide, we teach, and we listen." Thaler frowned. "That will not last forever. Sooner or later, someone will betray your kindness." "Perhaps," Elena said softly, "but kindness is not a weakness. It's a choice, one we make again and again, even when it's difficult." The Emperor fell silent. For the first time, he didn't have an argument ready. That night, Thaler sat alone in his guest chamber, looking out at the stars above Yaren. He thought of his ancestors, of his empire, of all the fear he had used to keep control. He realized something painful. Fear only lasted as long as people believed it worked. He whispered to himself, "They smile because they are not afraid. And that is why we tremble." The next morning, Thaler returned to his ship. Before leaving, he turned to Commander Ward. "What is it you truly want, human?" he asked. Elena answered without hesitation. "A galaxy where no one needs to tremble before another." Thaler looked at her for a long moment. Then, for the first time in his life, he smiled. Just a little. "Perhaps," he said quietly, "we have something to learn from you after all." When the Emperor returned to Vareth Prime, the Senate expected him to declare war. Instead, he made a surprising announcement. "The Therian Empire," he said, "will begin talks with the Coalition of Free Worlds. We will not surrender but we will listen." Gasps filled the hall. Some senators protested, others wept. But across the galaxy, billions cheered. Because for the first time in history, the mighty empire had chosen dialogue over domination. On the horizon, Dr. Das watched the broadcast and turned to Commander Ward. "Do you think he means it?" Elena smiled softly. "I think he's learning." She looked out at the stars, her voice calm and certain. "The galaxy is turning, Orion. Not because we fought harder, but because we refused to hate." In the months that followed, small miracles began to happen. Imperial governors stepped down peacefully. Former enemies began trade agreements. Scientists from dozens of races worked together on shared projects. The change wasn't sudden, but it was real. And everywhere, whenever someone doubted the future, they remembered one simple image: the quiet humans who had smiled while the galaxy trembled. The galaxy had changed. The Therian Empire, once unchallenged, had begun to question its methods. Fear no longer ruled the stars. The people of countless worlds looked to a new model of strength, one that combined courage, wisdom, and compassion. And at the heart of this change stood humanity, not as conquerors but as guides. On the planet Yaren, the Coalition of Free Worlds gathered for a historic assembly. Representatives from every corner of the galaxy came together. Humans, Urini, Tarnus, Rexel merchants, even former Imperial officials. Commander Elena Ward stood at the center, her calm gaze moving across the crowd. "We are not rulers," she said. "We are friends, allies, and partners. The galaxy has seen enough war and fear. Let us show it a new path." The assembly erupted in applause. It wasn't forced. It wasn't the applause of fear or obligation. It was joy. Hope. The first real hope in generations. Across the Empire, Emperor Thalor watched the broadcast from his private quarters. For months, he had negotiated quietly with coalition leaders, often guided by Admiral Xylan's counsel. He had learned difficult lessons. Power was not only in weapons or fleets, it was in respect, in trust, in the quiet influence that inspired rather than threatened. For the first time, he understood why the humans had smiled while the Empire trembled. They had a strength the Empire could never understand through fear alone, a strength born of unity and moral courage. Meanwhile, the Terran United Fleet moved through space, visiting worlds that had once lived in fear. Their mission was simple: to teach, to trade, and to protect. On Tarnus, miners watched as human engineers helped rebuild collapsed tunnels. On Rexal, traders worked side by side with humans, learning techniques that doubled their efficiency without exploiting anyone. And on the icy colonies of Tarnus Prime, human scientists helped stabilize the fragile climate systems, showing that cooperation could achieve what violence never could. Everywhere they went, the Terrans led by example. They didn't command, they showed. Back on the horizon, Commander Ward held a quiet meeting with her senior officers. "We've seen how fear rules the Empire," she said. "And we've seen how hope can inspire the galaxy. But this work is far from over." Dr. Arandas nodded. "Some worlds still resist change. They are loyal to fear, to old systems of power. It will take patience to reach them." Ward smiled faintly. "Then we will be patient. Humans are good at that." In the Imperial capital, Emperor Thalor faced his people. His words were broadcast across every system, every colony, every listening post. "My people," he began, "we have been proud of our strength for centuries. But true strength is not only in weapons or armies. It is in the courage to change, to listen, and to learn. Today we take our first steps toward a new galaxy, one united not by fear but by understanding." The speech shocked some, inspired others, and confused many. But across the coalition and the galaxy, the message spread like sunlight breaking through clouds. The galaxy's smaller races now had allies who did not seek to dominate. They had humans, courageous, smart, and kind, to guide them. On Yaren, a young Yareni engineer turned to his mentor. "Do you think the Empire will change completely?" The mentor smiled. "It will take time, but with humans showing a different path, it's possible. One day, even the greatest empires may learn that power is best used to protect, not to destroy." Meanwhile, the Terran fleet discovered worlds that had never known peace. Entire sectors were still under Imperial control, ruled by governors who demanded tribute and obedience. Commander Ward met with the leaders of these sectors. "You have a choice," she said. "You can continue in fear, or you can join the coalition and build a better future. The choice is yours." Some leaders were hesitant, still clinging to old ways. Others hesitated, but curiosity and hope began to take root. Slowly, one by one, they began to sign treaties. Peaceful treaties, not surrender agreements. Real agreements of cooperation and trust. Even within the Empire's military, change began. Officers who had once fired on unarmed colonies now refused orders that violated conscience. Soldiers trained under humans learned how to work without fear, and they shared their lessons with those around them. The galaxy was learning that leadership could inspire loyalty without threats. That strength could come from compassion. That courage was not only in fighting, but in choosing peace. One day, Commander Ward received an urgent message. A sector near the Outer Rim had experienced a natural disaster, a series of star eruptions threatening hundreds of inhabited planets. Without hesitation, the Terran fleet diverted their course. In a matter of hours, engineers and ships arrived to stabilize the energy fields, protect the planets, and coordinate evacuation plans for those in danger. The people of the sector watched in awe. "The humans saved us," said one child, her eyes wide. "They didn't even ask for anything in return." Ward watched the child from the bridge of the horizon and smiled. It was moments like these that reminded her why they had come to the stars, to protect life, not conquer it. Back in the Imperial capital, Emperor Thalor observed these events with growing respect. He convened his council, now smaller and quieter, and spoke plainly. "We have spent centuries ruling through fear. We have controlled, conquered, and punished. But look at what humans accomplish. not with weapons, but with courage, knowledge, and kindness. Perhaps it is time we learn from them. Some council members resisted. "We cannot follow others, Emperor," they shouted. Thalor raised a hand. "We do not follow, we learn. And through learning, we survive. The galaxy is changing, and we must change with it, or fade into history." Even in the Imperial Palace, the whisper of hope had begun. Across the galaxy, the coalition of free worlds continued to grow. Worlds once ruled by fear now participated in open trade and communication. Scholars from distant planets shared knowledge. Engineers collaborated to build infrastructure that benefited all. It was a new era, the first time the galaxy experienced cooperation on a grand scale. And the humans were at the center, not as rulers but as teachers, guides, and friends. Commander Ward looked out at the stars one quiet evening aboard the Horizon. The galaxy stretched endlessly before her, bright, dark, dangerous, and beautiful. Dr. Das joined her, his eyes reflecting distant suns. "Do you ever wonder if we've done enough?" he asked. Elena smiled softly. "We've started something. That is enough for now. Others will continue it. That is how change lasts." In the farthest reaches of space, a small Therian fleet approached the Coalition's borders. Its commander was nervous, still loyal to the old ways. But when they encountered the humans, they did not fight. Instead, they listened. They learned. They joined. The galaxy was slowly uniting, not through conquest, but through trust, and on countless worlds. From the richest cities to the humblest villages, a story was told again and again, of humans who did not shout, did not conquer, and did not seek power, humans who smiled while the galaxy trembled. And in that smile, the stars found hope. The dawn of a new galaxy had arrived. The Terran fleet sailed on, engines glowing softly, lights reflected in the eyes of those who watched from afar, and the galaxy learned a lesson it had never known. True strength is not measured by the fear you inspire, but by the courage, mercy, and hope you leave behind. And humanity smiled.